It is Wednesday, June 1st. We are talking about Sarah Hotelling's Pictures at an Exhibition. This is a short story from a book. And first, I want to show you what Sarah looks like. She's very young. She's 45. That's the year I graduated high school, in 77. And, this is the only book that she's written. So before we go on, I have a two-parter question. Did you like it? And why do you think a three-parter question. You can answer whatever you like. Why did they put this in the short story anthology? Did you like it? And do you want to read the book? Susan Wellick.
I did not like it. I do not want to read the book. And I even thought to myself, why should I even go to this discussion this morning? Because I really did not like this story at all.
Listen, Susan, I say at the top, I have 55 minutes to convince you otherwise.
Oh, okay.
I take it as a challenge.
I'll listen and you can go to it, Vanessa.
Right. I mean, I also think sometimes the books you don't like or stories, the discussion is just worth the whole the whole 9 yards.
Well, that's why I'm here.
Right. All right. Who else had? Why do you think why is it in this anthology? And does anyone want to read the book? No one wants to read the book.
In a way, I do, because it made me curious, especially the first paragraph. There was like talking about things that were going to happen, but obviously didn't happen in this first chapter, and it made me curious. I mean, was it the war? I mean, because apparently all these horrible things happened.
Right.
This family, and I don't know, was it the war? Or what was it?
It was definitely the war. Okay. And I read a lot of Holocaust books, so to read another Holocaust book. And in my other book group, we just read Lisa Barr's, oh gosh, I don't remember that. But it was about this Nazis looting Jewish art. And I just want to read you, let me tell you about Sarah. She's the author of Pictures at an Exhibition, a New York Times Editor's Choice book, and a finalist for the National Jewish Book Award. By the way, I found out from my librarian friends that the National Jewish Book Award, if you pay $500, you get into the contest.
Okay. By the way, it's called Woman on Fire.
That's her new one. Yes. That's her new one. Okay. It's the one before that we read. She's a recipient of the Narrative Prize and a fellowship for NEA. Her work has appeared in the New York Times, Narrative Magazine, San Francisco Chronicle. She's got a lot of awards. Oh, she went to University of Michigan. That's my alma mater. A former high school teacher. She's currently a lecturer in the Stanford University Department of English, teaches fiction with Stanford Continuing Studies, and hosts the interview series, Stanford Fiction Writers and Conversation. So that all sounds very interesting. And then I also found, and I have to find it here. Here we go. Max, so this is about the story. Max Berezon's father is the most successful art dealer in Paris, owner of Berezon Gallery, home to both Picasso and Matisse. To Max's great surprise, his father forbids him from entering the family business, choosing instead to hire a beautiful and brilliant gallery assistant named Rose Clement. When Paris falls to the Nazis, the Berezons survive in hiding, but when they return in 1944, their gallery is empty. Their priceless collection vanished. In a city darkened by corruption and black marketeers, Max chases his twin obsessions, the lost paintings and Rose. And the painting, this Almonds, Currants and Peaches by Edward Manet, I'm just going to show you a picture of it.
Ugly. It's ugly.
Ah, come on. It's a Monet. It's still missing. And that, I think that is the hook for these authors and telling the stories, that this Jewish art has not surfaced. And remember the one about Klimt?
Yeah.
It was a movie.
Yeah.
Gold dress or women in gold or something.
Yes,
like that.
Women in Gold.
Oh, I saw that.
You know, they had proof, and it took them years and years to get the paintings back. So I think this is what it's a fascinating story, and it's kind of like a mystery that's hard to, I don't know if I didn't read the book, so I don't know if she resolves it in the book. Lynn.
This author did her BA at Harvard too. So she's from Harvard, she's from Stanford, she's from Michigan, she's from, okay. I thought the story was half intriguing, half pompous and pedantic. I thought that she, this is not accessible to an ordinary reader, I don't think. I mean, you have to be really grounded in art and history. We just had been to the Cezanne exhibit, so I understood, I caught that. But I mean, I would like reaction from other people. I mean, honestly, I thought maybe she wrote that to mirror the father's intellectual elitism. But as far as when you said they came back and found no art, I mean, I'm not sure the father cared about the art per se. I thought he used art. I don't think he enjoyed art. He used art to get more money. And he also used art to burnish the artists. He picked and chose who was going to buy it. They had to be of a higher level in order to make the reputation of the artist more elevated. So I don't know. I was more intrigued with the father-son relationship than I was with the art.
Yeah.
I mean, and what happened to the art.
Right.
I was more concerned about what happened to the boy, to the Max.
Right.
Because I thought his father was devastating.
Right.
In his reaction to the son.
Right. My question to Lynn would be, if he didn't care about the art, why didn't he let Max be the curator?
Oh, he was concerned about the money. He was concerned about the money that the art would bring rather than the art itself. He had no emotional, two things. He had no emotional reaction to anything. Second, he had no emotional attachment to anything, his son or his, or to the art. I mean, he doesn't care. He was most upset when his son got upset that the art was gone the next day after he had become attached to the art. The father said, in essence, you're a wimp. We can't have you around crying when the art gets sold. So I despise the father, I have to say.
Okay, Merle. And then Sue, and then Evie.
Okay, I agree with Lynn. The best part of this story is the relationship with the son and the father. And the son, in addition to not having the photographic memory required to know what was in the gallery, what was the inventory, the father said the boy was so morose that he was going to send the clients away.
Right.
Now, I put a title in the chat, Pictures of the Past by Debbie Eisenberg. This was a novel that was written in 2011. And I think she lives in Riverwoods. I actually met her at a book discussion. She has a master's degree from the University of Chicago. She wrote a book almost just like this, except it was about one missing painting. So you can imagine the tragic feeling of losing all those paintings, not just one painting. And I thought the book is geared toward people who are very educated. I don't think the average person could at all grasp this because there were too many
names and facts about paintings. So she's certainly not making this accessible to anyone except educated people.
Totally
But I
agree.
thought another good Holocaust story about art, but it's been done before. I mean, I put down the title Pictures of the Past. Debbie Eisenberg actually went to Berlin and Paris and all over Europe, tracing the history of a painting so that she could write her novel. So it's kind of been done. Okay, that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, I mean, it's been done and done and done. I could give you 5 books on that. Okay, but Sue and then Evie.
I liked her writing. I did. And I thought it was beautiful. And I thought that the father was attached. I don't remember what it was called. Was it the almonds?
Yeah.
Was attached to one painting that he never sold and never gave up. And so maybe that's what you do if you sell art. You don't become attached to it because it's going. It's not for your it's your pleasure or enjoyment to have it, to be the custodian of it until it sells. So, but clearly Max was taken with it all. But maybe that doesn't make for necessarily good business in the father's eyes. He'd never get rid of anything. So it was all about getting rid of the art and promoting the artist. But I liked her writing a lot.
Okay, thank you.
It
Evie, then Izzy.
Yeah, I really didn't care for it, but I have a real deficit in terms of my art education and knowledge, but I just wanted to contrast it. Ironically, I just read this yesterday and was in a book discussion in another book group, and I know you probably had this in one of your book groups, Vanessa, and I didn't read it for that, but in this book, House on Endless Waters, there wasn't a page that I really wish I had taken notes. I was so interested in the art that he was discussing, whereas I didn't feel that way at all about this. So I really felt
Stop it.
in terms of my reaction. No, I didn't care for the story, and I'm not interested in reading the book.
I also think it's fascinating that she's only 45 and she's doing all these other things, but this is the only book she's written. I don't see anything if she has a family history to the art world or missing art, and many Jewish families do. And I think that we're just going to see more and more and even more stories about that. Okay, Izzy's back.
No,
go ahead.
No, it's just app calling. They were going to come now. I said, "Can't come at 11:01 for delivery." I was just going to say the only funny part I thought about it was the mother playing the piano on page 75, where she said, "Mother, she heard sharps in the opening and closing of my dresser drawers. She heard sounds B flat or C flat when the car started or whatever." I just thought that was a funny part, the only funny part. I really, and I was focused also. I think Lynn gave a great summary of everything that I agree with everything she said. And I just wondered what happened to him at the end. They wanted him to be a doctor, which is like everybody's dream. They want him, and it's not what he wanted to do at all. And he was failing miserably. And I just wondered what happened to the poor guy. But to me, it was like with Lynn, the father and the son's relationship.
Okay. Lynn and then Joyce and then Merle.
So I want to respond to Sue. And I agree that he was, that was his job. I mean, he was a patron of the arts. He was also a father. We're all interested in the father-son relationship. He didn't see the opportunity here for connection with his son. I mean, this would have been a wonderful learning experience. This would have been a wonderful topics for discussion. All over, I said, connection. Where's the connection between the father and the son? So this was I don't know that much about, the art of this, what happened. I know that the Jews of this time really had fabulous art collections and things. I know nothing about their personal lives, but money was very important. It was their means for status and power and all of that. To me, that just overtook his whole essence. And that the son decided he was going to fail as miserably as he could for it. So that tells you something about the relationship between, there are children who decide to do that, but I've
seen students do that, believe me.
Yes, I have too.
When they don't like it and they're being forced.
But I love the fact that she ends the story, it's not the end of the book, with him falling asleep in class.
Yeah.
So I get it that he was a patron and he couldn't become attached. And almonds, I guess we could talk symbolically about almonds and the bitterness of almonds as well. There could be a sweetness, there could be a bitterness. And to me, this was a bitter, I don't know if it was a bitter man, but it was certainly a bitter relationship between the two.
Yeah, I agree. Joyce and then Merle.
The way that the father chose to teach his son about art was almost cruel.
Oh.
That the way he made him memorize the paintings that were on the wall, and then the painter's name, the history of the painter, what the painting depicted, and then the paintings would disappear the next day, and the son had to recall everything. And it was very, you used the word pedantic earlier, Lynn, and there was no emotion attached.
Right.
And there was no warmth in the way the father taught the son. And the son Max had an interest in it. And he loved those paintings and was sorry to see them go. And the father could have cared less. As you said, all he cared about was the money. And it was a different aspect of the business. And the father just couldn't see that.
Mm-hmm.
And the way he, excuse me 1 minute, Vanessa, and the way he chose Rose was purely a business deal, of course, that I thought he chose a woman, an attractive woman, because nobody had done that before, and that she would be an asset to the business because of her knowledge, her attractiveness, and her the difference in what she would bring to his gallery.
Yeah.
And of course, Max was smitten by her.
Right. Her savvy. Until when you're describing that, Joyce, it's like a bad art history 101. I remember memorizing those slides. And if I saw a painting now, okay, it was a long time ago. Merle and then Susan. Wait.
Sorry.
There you go.
Okay. One of the lines in the story that really struck me was that Max did not understand that they were living on borrowed time. So he was really wasting his time. He wasn't studying at medical school. He wasn't doing what he was supposed to do. And what I read about this book is that eventually he passionately begins looking for the paintings and for Rose later on. that his father didn't realize how passionately he did care about the business, and that this business had originally started out as an art supply business way back with the grandfather and grew to be this very respected art gallery. And I thought it was interesting that Jews went into the art business. I didn't really realize that so many Jewish people were in the art gallery business. But about the paintings and being the way the father was, I knew someone who worked for an art gallery, and he said at some point, it's like selling socks. He said like selling socks. So I think that the father's attitude, there was something I wrote a note about. He wanted to place the paintings with very specific owners who could add luster to the artist's reputation.
Right.
Yeah, there was this whole strategy that the father had. And I thought if he could have sat down with his son night after night after night, the way he was expecting Rose to sit with him and explain things, he could have accomplished that with his son instead of what happened. It just was such a terrible relationship. And my question as I walked away from this story is, how could the father have improved his relationship with his son? What could have been different?
Very, very interesting. Okay, Susan, and then Abby, then Lynn.
Okay, so I'm glad I came and to listen to all of you because obviously maybe my mind was somewhere else when I was reading this book, because I'm getting something that I never got while I was reading it, except I say the ending really left me kind of cold. And I feel like the son just kind of gave up. He just gave up on a relationship with his father, and he tried to have a relationship with this nurse, and she kind of rebuffed him. He obviously wanted to sleep with her, and she said no, and he just kind of gave up. And I found that kind of interesting. I mean, but it just left me hanging. But it still didn't make me want to read the book to find out what happened.
Okay, agreed on all of that. Abby and then Lynn.
Yeah, the ending still left me hanging. I still don't understand it. And the artwork reminded me of our family business, or the ones that Julie and I started and our son has taken over, is trade shows for the computer industry. And this just reminded me of a commodity as opposed to art. And one of the expressions that we use that we did not allow were bimbo babes. And this was, I thought Rosa was a bimbo babe. She was there to just kind of attract customers and so forth to the art thing, which is something we just, never allowed, or any kind of glitz like that and so forth. So that's what it reminded me in terms of her attractiveness to kind of sell the commodity. The art just happened to be, just like somebody said, the socks or cotton or something like that.
But she was so smart. She was so much quicker than Max. And, Merle, you said something about, how could he not take time with the son? And as a teacher, when I taught Kita Aleph, I would go in the first day and I would know which kids were going to get it and which kids were not going to get it, and that I'd have to sit with. And Rose got it. She was so much smarter. And that's a mean thing for a father to do, not to sit with her, the son who does, maybe he will eventually get it, but is not as quick as she is. And that's not excusing, it's making his behavior even worse by me saying that. But I think that's part of it. Lynn.
In response to Merle, you know what? There's nothing that can be done to improve that relationship. The father is the father. That's his temperament. I mean, I know fathers like that. They can't warm up. They don't know how to parent. I mean, he knows how to sell. He's a very good art patron and art critic and art. I shouldn't even say art critic. We never got anything from him on his reaction to the art. So we took Alice, I'm going to mention that art class that we took at Northwestern, the philosophy of art. And he talked about the beauty and the emotional reaction of the person looking at the painting. I think Sue's right. He is not a lover of art. He is a seller of art. And I think we have to keep remembering that. And that's his personality. You know, he's a businessman. And though I shouldn't say all businessmen are devoid of emotion, but he is devoid of emotion. He doesn't see the beauty in art. His son sees the beauty in art. So when you have that gap between two people, I don't know where they meet. You know, the son is so emotionally wrought when it's sold, and the father is so delighted that, you know, where are you going to meet there unless, you know, he needs to take a class in parenting for sure. But that was my reaction to this man. And the son does have a passion. He does give up at the end of this story. But from what Merle said, Merle, did you read the?
No, I read a summary. I read a summary though.
Well, it seems like he goes after the art. I mean, he's driven to go after the art. So to me, that was so much bred in his personality. I guess he picked that up from his father just because his father had the paintings around. I mean, that's the extent of it. But I think he does tap into his passion and is driven by something, which is heartening.
Agreed. Alice, Izzy, and then Merle.
Okay. I think it's really difficult for all of us because this is just part of a novel. So I think that's such a different art in terms of writing chapters of a novel and then writing a short story. And a lot of the short stories we've read don't have a resolution. It just seems that there's lots of questions raised it looks like we're reading two chapters of the book. There's lots of questions raised and not a lot of answers. But I'm just going to say one more thing. I really liked reading the story. I thought she, in just a few pages, really did. I mean, she talked about the grandfather, the father, the mother, the son, the Rose. I mean, there were a lot of characters that she gave you hints at, what was going to be coming. And I thought she did a good job of that. It didn't bother me that it was, all the references to the art. There were a lot of historical references too, that I didn't get all of them, but I still feel like she was mostly successful in my eyes in terms of painting a picture of what the times were like and what these people were living through.
Izzy.
I was fascinated and wanted to see what the almonds by Monet look like. And the real name was Almonds, Currants, and Peaches.
Yeah.
So currants, and I looked up what currants meant. It's a kind of a raisin, but it's sweeter and savior. Has more punch to it. But whatever. But I just was curious as to why he loved that painting so much. After I looked at it online last night, I was like aghast. I just thought it was kind of ugly. And also, he said that everybody else used fresh fruit and he let his rot. Everybody else made molds of their food or something. And this was rotting. And then he said he only could understand that father loved the painting, except that it was painted by a humble man nearing the end of his life when Monet's legs were weak with syphilis and the artist could no longer stand at his grand canvases. So the man whose life had begun to still began to paint still lifes. He had an incredible fondness for Monet. And, but I just couldn't get over that painting that never left. And then the son says, I couldn't take my eyes off of it, even though I wanted to. But to me, it was not bright. All his other artists, Picasso and whatever, were so bright and lively. And anybody have anything to say about that? That picture I was horrified when I looked at it. It looked like two black eyes. And then
right. I mean, I showed that picture a second ago, and he had, he had Picasso, which some people like and some people may not like. But, of all the Impressionists, and for those of us who have gone to see Cezanne, and Susan, we got there this weekend. I know you were there. It's amazing. I wouldn't put that up there. And Evie mentions the song, Almonds and Raisins, and, in Yiddish, it's a very, it's a very popular Yiddish song, like a lullaby. So I'm not sure. Wait a minute, I wrote it down. Oh, Merle, then Alice, then Lynn.
Okay, so this story was very personal to me because I have a daughter who's an artist. She went to the University of Michigan School of Art and then transferred to the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. And now she's an art teacher. So step by step, I saw how they train artists. And when he said in this story, the father says, still life paintings are the lowliest of genres. And landscape paintings are only slightly superior. What gives him the right to judge all the genres? Is he saying that only paintings with people are of value? I mean, he was so opinionated and so judgmental. It made me so angry. It was as if part of him really knew nothing about art. Because as I watched my daughter progress along the way, I mean, there was so much that was done with still life and landscape and eventually gesture drawings with people and then people. There's a process there. And it was like he knew nothing about art except the business end. That was what drove me crazy, that he has the right to judge, horrible person.
No. Alice.
Yeah, this is kind of in response to what Izzy was saying, how she didn't like the painting, the almonds painting. I respectfully not disagree with love or not, but I can see, I just am thinking about going to an art gallery or going to an art exhibition or watching a movie or something. Sometimes art, something in it just connects with you, where you are in your life, what's happening. I just remember experiences of like going and seeing all these paintings, like just one kind of just talks to me, just speaks to me. And I think that it's part of, art is that every painting doesn't appeal to every person, but there obviously was something in this painting that spoke to the father, and maybe maybe that goes along with what we're saying about the father, what his personality was like. So I think we need to know more, but that piqued my interest because there had to have been some underlying reason why she talked so much about his love of this painting. So,
yeah, maybe we have to read the whole book. Lynn.
In this art class that we took on the philosophy of art, he emphasized that when a person is looking at a piece of art and he says, oh, I love this, he could be talking about, you have to divorce subject matter from technique. And there are people who look at a painting and they love the technique, but they can't stand the subject matter. So they'll say, oh, this technique is fabulous. Or somebody else might say, I love this subject matter. I love what but look at his technique. Oh, this is sloppy or whatever. So, I mean, for us we really can't say. I mean, I don't know how to answer Izzy, except that there is something, either it was technique or something, but I do agree that I don't think he knew much about, though I can't say that either, based on one chapter or two chapters of a story. I guess we have to learn more about the father, but he does seem to be preoccupied more with the commercial value of a piece of art than he does. Though he collected masters, so he must have, you know, he must have known something.
He had the golden touch.
But isn't it ironic that he can see something in the painting that is of value, but he can't see anything in his son that's of value?
Mm-hmm.
I find that.
We're going to come back to that. Yeah. Sandy and then Merle.
When I was growing up, the only art we had in our home were landscapes. I guess that's what appealed to my mother or what was popular. But we had landscapes. And when I was first married, David and I went to art fairs. We went to every art fair that was around Chicago, you know, Hyde Park and Evanston and everything. And I bought a picture that I loved. And when I loved a picture, I would put it in my kitchen so that every morning after David went to work and the children went to school, I could stare at that picture with my second cup of coffee. And it was a picture of a woman with just sitting, watching her children. I think it was around ducks in a pond. My daughter has it now. I passed it on. But anyway, excuse me. But anyway, I had a love affair with that picture. I had to, many years later, sorry, I can't get this phone off. Later, I had to choose art for a company, for a Japanese company. So I had to put myself in their place and choose what I thought they would like, do the whole office. And it was really a learning experience for me. But during that time, I came upon a Japanese artist that I fell in love with. And I have the picture. I bought the picture for myself at that time. And I have it here in my home. I love to look at it. It's just a woman in Paris because Fujita, a Japanese man, worked in Paris. He was born in Japan. But Fujita is just a marvelous artist that I had never known about before I saw that picture. And it's a woman in a very pensive mood. And if I want to identify with her, if I want to just not being lonely, but just being with someone and just be getting in her thoughts and mine, I sit in front of that picture. So I think it's wonderful when you can identify with a picture.
Absolutely. And I'm not sure about Max's father. And I wanted to talk a little bit about, you know, the generations. We think about, you know, I think about how, you know, my grandparents interacted with their kids and so on and so forth. And my daughter is about to have her second baby. And she sent me this, it's hard to see, toddler refresher course. New normal, tantrums are normal and not ignored. And, you know, and it says healthiest, you know, dear grandparents, dessert served with dinner sometimes. And, you know, it goes on and on. And I had a video blog with Arthur, you know, that when we babysat in December, Lital gave us, I'm not kidding, you know, 2 pages of instructions. And she said, did you read them? And we're like, yes, we read them. But, and then at that bottom, that was from Instagram. And at the bottom, I replied to her, because she's potty training Esme, the 2-year-old. I said, well, it doesn't say anything about, it doesn't say that you can't have licorice for going on the potty, because that's what you know, and I know she doesn't like it, but I'm just going to say it gets results. And, you know, every generation has a different way of interacting. Like I wouldn't interact the way, I mean, I thought my dad, who just passed away, you know, he worked 80 hours a week. You know, he, you know, wasn't cooking and so on and so forth. And now, you know, my daughter, you know, my husband and I have more of a, you know, he doesn't cook either, but he knows how to cook. My dad does, you know, didn't know how to cook. And my parents had such a division of labor. You know, I went back to my mom and I said, Mom, you should watch Bridgerton. And she goes, we didn't like it. I said, you didn't like it or Daddy didn't like it? And Daddy didn't like it. And she only watched what he watched and she doesn't know how to use the remote. So, and let me just say, it's not easy to teach someone. I'd rather teach someone how to get on Zoom. Anyway, I think we have to put into context that age of, you know, fathers and sons. They were very involved in making sure that their kids had a trade and could make money. And that's why you pick a doctor. Lynn.
Vanessa, this father.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean,
no redemption on the father.
No redemption. I'm sorry. I mean, my grandfather was from old school and he used to sit in the corner with impassive. But when we came around, oh, he'd hug us and smile. And you know what? This father wasn't interested in what this son wanted to do or what his talents were. You know, you're going to be a doctor, a pediatrician, no less. How did he, I mean, you have to have talent for that.
Yeah.
He didn't even understand the son. And the son kept saying, what about me? What about me?
Okay. Can we,
okay. So he was more, you know.
Can we blame it on him being German?
We could.
Yes.
We could do that.
We have Evie and then Merle.
In a way, listening to all this and thinking back, I'm almost seeing like maybe the two generations are reversed, where in my mind, I would see the passion and the father of appreciating the art and the son, oh, quick money, quick, you know, let's move on and so on and so forth. This isn't, so it was almost topsy-turvy in my mind.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. But it, you know, you have to go to the, you know, what every person has their own,
generational thing too, right?
Yeah, relationship with art or the arts. Merle.
Okay. In every family, there is someone who raises the child. In this family, the mother was playing piano 6 hours a day, and the father was busy with the gallery. But he does mention that he was left in the care of the housekeeper, Lucy, and the chauffeur, Auguste. And both of them loved music and both of them loved Max. So he did get some nurturing from somebody in the household. And the average family maybe doesn't have a live-in housekeeper and a live-in chauffeur or whatever, but that was his family. So that's how he did turn out to be a caring human being, and how he did go after the paintings later on and trying to find the paintings in rows as the story progresses, but we didn't read that part of the story. But I felt so much better when I read that one sentence that there were two people who loved him and took care of him, Auguste and Lucy. So it wasn't 100% terrible, you know.
So that goes to, you know, maybe that was what was happening and may still happen in very wealthy families, you know, where they don't raise their children and they have nannies, then they go to boarding school. And, you know, we have a glimpse at the royal families and what they do or what they don't do. And, you know, they've changed over the generations by raising their children and being around. But, you know, maybe that was, and I wonder if Max thought, well, I think he did. He thought that if he could just live up to what his father wanted with the paintings, he could have some type of tie with him. And, you know, he fell short. And, you know, it's that memorization. It's the, I think the right brain, right? You know, he had the feelings for the paintings, but he couldn't remember all the facts, just like he couldn't remember all the facts to study for medical school. Lynn and Izzy, did you have your hand up? No. Okay. Lynn.
You know something? I thought the father was cruel in the way that he enumerated all the son's faults.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it wasn't just no, I don't think this is for you, you know, da, 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 da. I mean, he went on to tell him all his failings. So, I mean, that, I can't excuse him for that. Is that a German mentality? I don't know. I mean, is that and I guess we can't judge parenting. I mean, you know, I have 2 daughters who are doing it and I have to keep my mouth shut. So, you know, people have their own style of parenting, but here we're looking at it in a story. And I have to say, I do judge. I have to say that.
You know, I have been to many B'nai Mitzvah, and occasionally, very occasionally, like at the party, a father, it's usually a father, will get up there and say things that are joking, but it's like roasting the kid. The kid's 13. Like it should be, I love you, I'm proud, sit down. You know, I mean, and the sit down is to the parent. And every time that happens, I absolutely cringe, because although a 13-year-old or, you know, any age is not going to say, please say nice things, or I need to be loved. That's what they want. And so that is so cruel. And I don't know if they don't think it'll be noticed or it doesn't matter. Like, I don't know what or they just feel like they have to get it out. You know, Max needs to know this. I'm not sure. And it certainly doesn't, you know, build the relationship in my point of view. Okay. Whew. Right. So I guess in the end, Max, you know, hopes to accomplish finding his father's stolen paintings. And I'm sure it says, you know, what does he hope to accomplish? But I think, you know, obviously he wants to, you know, he wants his father to love him and to praise him and to think highly of him. I mean, it's very hard when your father is that denigrating to come back after that. Yeah, Lynn.
I just want to make one statement. There was a line in here, I'm not sure I'm going to find it, that everybody was fighting for this man's attention. There's a line in there that said, even his wife. So if you have a person like that who only is into himself, self-centered, and his whole world revolves around himself, to break through that is very difficult. And I think, I don't know how many of us have encountered people like that, but you can't engage. And he's chasing after the art. I don't know if he still gets it, that he's never going to please his father. It's an impossible task. I hope he finds somebody. Merle, I'm designating you to read this book.
Well, actually, I found the quote that you're looking. I found it.
Oh, good.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Max wished that his father would raise subjects other than art that could guide him on boyhood matters, such as girls in sweaters or my birthday choice of alpine skis. The time Max spent with his father, the nightly recitations, were treasured occasions because people, including his mother, had to fight for his attention. Yeah.
That's the line.
Was that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Very sad.
I wonder if wealth, and you know, she makes a point of saying how extraordinarily wealthy he was. She traces his progress into buying property and investing in all of this. If that it's a value story. What are your values? And his money seems to be his primary value over love or family or loyalty to people.
He did love that one picture.
He did love.
I'm just saying.
He did love that one picture.
I don't know why. Can you show it again?
Yes. Let me get it up. While I'm getting it up, the Penguin Random House has questions. What are the pleasures of reading historical fiction? What might account for the great resurgence of the historical novel in the past decade? I read a lot of historical novels, but the ones on the Holocaust are just getting harder and harder to read. And I don't know that I'm getting, here it is. You know, here it is. Okay, let me show you the picture again. That's it. And they're selling, you know, museum quality hand painted oil reproduction. Yeah, you know, I'm not sure what that is about. Oh no. Yeah, trying to get a bigger picture.
Do you think it's sensual? I mean,
I was going to say that, you know, that
the fleshy.
Yeah.
Maybe he's sublimating himself into the picture, and he can't access his sensual part.
I mean, why wouldn't he pick that one? That's beautiful. Well, maybe he didn't have.
It's a landscape. It's a low poops on the ladder.
Right.
But so is a still life. So that's ironic.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, some of the look. I love Impressionist paintings, and this is, and I'm pretty sure there was something of his at the Art Institute. And of course, we're lucky that the Art Institute is here. They have a large Impressionist collection because they were able to buy it when people didn't value that type of art. And it was, you know, 150 years ago. Izzy.
Oh, I was going to say, when I looked at the picture, I tend to amorphize. I don't know what that means. You look at something and you kind of see something in it. I saw 2 eyes and a mustache.
Oh.
And that was the first thing that came out of me. And it was kind of scary, but that's immediately what I saw. And I was like horrified. But in terms of fathers, you know, every father is different. Every father, you talk about cruel, and this goes no further. My father was probably the cruelest father you could ever have. So this father seemed nicer to me than many fathers. So you can't know what psychologically, he was German, of German descent, but no one knows what goes into making somebody so mean. I kind of realized that all these years, but the cruelty that a father can inflict is horrible. So for us to try and discuss what made him so mean to his son, but in my experience, that wasn't so horrible what he did. So everybody's got a different view of how fathers are supposed to treat their children, and there's various degrees. So it depends on your experience, I guess. But to try and analyze why he was this or why he was that is, because I had an extreme situation. So
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of extreme, situations. Well, it's 10:58, and APT is coming to Izzy at 11:01.
11:01, I told you.
I have a handyman at the door.
And which I appreciate. We meet again in 2 weeks. We're going to read the story, The Briss, and here's our author, Eileen Pollock. She's 66, so she's a scotch older. And I think, I hope you like it. And as always, we have a lot to discuss. Susan, I hope you love the discussion today. Yes, okay. Woo! That's a win for Vanessa. And listen, I'm not getting paid by these authors or whatever. So I can only thank you for all of your comments and the good discussion. And it makes you think about it. And now I'm going to have to find somebody who's read the whole book.
Yeah. Vanessa, she has won so many awards.
I know.
On this book.
Yeah. So, well, she only had one book. Listen, the Joshua Hankin, who did Sex on the Brain. He wrote a book and it got all these awards. And I read it for my evening book club. And I was like, okay. And it wasn't about the Holocaust. Finding books, and this is Holocaust adjacent, as I call it, is hard. You could have a Holocaust book club and just do one book and they'd be all good books and good reviews. It's not easy. And June 15th will be our last session for the summer. Then you all can read, tell me what you're reading. We'll keep it up and I'll see you in August. So we'll see you in 2 weeks. Oh, let's see what's happening. Well, the annual meeting's coming up. We're going to have dinner if you want to come, or not dinner if you don't want to come. And this weekend is Yisker with Shavuot, and we have cheesecake. So you're not going to want to miss that.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much.